For a more in-depth look at all this, we turn to Philip Bump, national correspondent for The Washington Post. Philip, good morning.
Morning, sir.
So much to talk about, but let's start talking about what Nancy was reporting on immigration here. As we've heard, the president says he doesn't like the children being separated from their families. He calls it horrible. He calls it the Democrats' law. Is it?
No, not at all. I mean, it's important for folks to recognize what's happening here, which is that clearly President Trump doesn't like the political fallout he's getting from this policy. It's broadly unpopular. President Trump himself has called it horrible, but this is a policy of his administration, and it is a policy that was designed, according to Chief of Staff John Kelly and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, as a deterrent. The goal is to scare people away from the border. If you come across the border, we're going to take your children away. That's the intent of it, and this is a policy that has been implemented by the administration. There is no law that necessitates it. So this is absolutely something that is his responsibility.
So, Philip, you wrote about this in the Washington Post, but I wonder if you think that the political pressure that seems to be mounting over this specific issue of separation could perhaps be something that the president and the administration eventually decides the longer this goes on, the less worth it becomes.
Well, I think there are two considerations. The first is the politics, and the politics of this are bad. When you have the president out there saying this is a bad thing, it's going to be hard for him over the long term to defend it once people become aware that this is something that he himself is doing. But then secondarily, we have a situation in which the president is taking an action which is not having the effect that he's intending. Again, this was meant as a deterrent. If you actually look at the month-by-month numbers, there's no change in the number of families in May relative to April that are approaching the border. So it's not even working as a deterrent, which I think over the long term may be a reason that he decides to turn away from it.
Philip, let's turn to Paul Manafort, who spent his first night in jail. Why did the judge jail Paul Manafort?
Well, essentially, the judge jailed Paul Manafort because she had lost confidence that he would essentially behave properly while he was out on bail. He was accused by special counsel Robert Mueller of a witness tampering, of reaching out to someone who could testify against him to try and get their stories straight, essentially. And so the judge sent him to jail because she didn't trust that he would. She said, you know, I can't just take your phone away. This isn't middle school, something along those lines.
I mean, how extreme is this?
I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's terribly extreme. If you violate the terms of your bail, then sometimes you have to go to jail. So this is not, as President Trump said, because they think he's a big, dangerous mob boss. It's because he simply didn't adhere to the rules that he was supposed to follow.
At the same time, I mean, Paul Manafort is someone who is accustomed to a certain lifestyle, wearing $7,000 suits. He has an apartment in Trump Tower. So could there perhaps be pressure on Manafort now, enhanced pressure in a way that there wasn't before, that might, in fact, lead to him cooperating with the special counsel?
Well, I think that, yes, I think that special counsel Mueller is not terribly upset that Paul Manafort has to go to jail. Obviously, the special counsel is trying to put a lot of pressure on Manafort, wants him to tell him whatever he happens to know about President Trump, about the Trump campaign. This is certainly going to be an incentive for Paul Manafort to try and figure out, okay, I need to change something. I can't be here very long. Maybe making a deal is the way to do it.
At the same time, according to a CBS News report, Michael Cohen believes that President Trump and his allies may be turning on him. What do we know about that situation, and how great a threat is Cohen, do we think, at this point?
I mean, honestly, I think Cohen is one of the biggest threats to President Trump. And the reason why is because folks should remember, Cohen started working for the Trump Organization back in 2007. So he was there for 9 years, essentially, before the Trump campaign got started. He knows all of the deals that Trump was making. He was Trump's so-called fixer. He was the guy sent out to deal with little messes. He knows a lot of stuff. He was there during the campaign. He's mentioned in the infamous Steele dossier. He obviously set up the deal with Stormy Daniels, the adult film actress. There are all sorts of, lots of information that Michael Cohen has. So I'm not surprised that Donald Trump's getting a little nervous about it.
All right, Philip Bump, thanks so much for being with us. Happy Father's Day, Philip.
Thank you, sir.